Hello, and welcome to this video. So today I am attempting a pick a card or pick a pile tarot reading, and I have 3 beautiful decks here for you to choose from. And I also positioned some crystals on top of each deck for you to choose. So you can either choose based on the crystal or the back of the decks. So let me show you. Here we have a rose quartz. For the Tarot of Aphrodite. And that's how it looks in the back. And then in the middle here we have, I think it's a clear quartz, but don't quote me on that. I'm not super good with crystals. And the deck is the Flower Child Tarot. So that's your second option. And lastly we have, I don't know what this is. I would say an obsidian, but I might be wrong. I don't know. Graphite, not sure. But we have this beautiful black crystal with Zeke's Arcana tarot. And look at the beautiful etching. So, again, this is the Tarot of Aphrodite. Then we have the Flower Child Tarot. And lastly, Zeke's Arcana. Okay. You can take your time to choose one of the decks. Or if you want, you can also pick multiple readings. And I hope that the reading will resonate with you. Okay. Hello to the people that chose pile number 1. This reading is for you. You chose the rose quartz or the Tarot of Aphrodite. Aphrodite is, of course, the goddess of love, but this will not be necessarily a reading about love. So, let's start, shall we? Okay. Let's look in the first position. And this, before I turn it, this symbolizes the context or situation. Okay. So we have the King of Coins. The King of Coins here. Let me show you up close. Okay. This King of Coins is looking quite broody, I would say. Is that the right word? Moody, maybe is better. He is also looking quite calm, though. He looks at ease in his land. And what I like about the King of Coins is that he is a nurturing man. And it doesn't have to be an actual person in your life. This could represent someone in your life. It could be yourself. Or it could just be your general situation, how you're feeling, your current situation. So, the King of Coins, you can tell there are some dark clouds up here. So that could mean that there is some moodiness going on, and it's not all clear skies, right? So you might be quite at ease in your current situation, whether it's your home situation, your work situation. The coins are usually related to the material world, and this can also mean the physical body or your home life. So the King of he's also like a hard worker, and like he has sacrificed a lot to get to this point. So again, in this case, I would say the context or your situation might be along those lines of you have worked hard to get to where you are, and you might be satisfied and content with your situation, but there could also be some doubts kind of on the horizon, if you will, kind of like those dark clouds over there. But let's also look at your current vibes, which is Temperance. Okay, this is a major arcana card. So the major arcana, the cards are very important in your life because they talk about the overall like a more long-term situation that you're in. So in this case, since it's in the position of your vibes, or I don't want to say feelings, because vibes and like emotions, they're more long-lasting than feelings. But Temperance is all about balance, right? Temperance is at ease, right? When you're the figure usually is represented holding 2 cups, right? In this case, we don't have that, but you can tell that she seems very confident in herself, her abilities. She's also very grounded, which I like, but she's also like sitting, but her feet, which are covered, but they're partly on the ground. So we do get that traditional depiction of the duality of Temperance as well. And I think in terms of the vibes position, it is a very good sign, along with the King of Coins, or not sign, rather, I should say. It again just establishes that you are content with your life right now. You are content with your current situation, whether it's your love life, your home life, or your work life. Obviously you can answer that for yourself, but it is very positive. It's a very positive vibe. And again, I think it also speaks to the hard work of the King of Coins, because Temperance, it didn't just it wasn't just able to become so grounded and so confident in herself. It's something that like comes with time, right? So that also speaks to you being hardworking and fighting for your dreams, fighting for your goals. So then we have the action, and this could be an action that you need to take, or something that you've maybe already been implementing or doing. And here we have the Princess of Wands. The Princess of Wands. This is a great depiction of the Princess of Wands, because the Princess of Wands, which, by the way, the princesses correlate to the pages, in case you want to know. But the Princess of Wands, she is someone full of passion. She's very passionate. And that also translates into action, right? She wants to get, stuff done, or things done. She's not scared of trying, right? Like, she's a very passionate individual. Sometimes, to a fault, she might get carried away. She might be a bit impulsive. But it's still very positive in the sense that sometimes, or actually, you can never know how things are gonna go unless you try it first, right? And sometimes we may need a push to do something, whether you're someone who procrastinates or whether you're scared of putting yourself out there and trying for what you want, right? But so the fact that this is in the action position, it means you either need to take this action of like, okay, you have your passions, you know what you want to do, and you should just go for it and like try it. Or maybe you are actively doing that right now, right? maybe you already are quite present in that mindset, right? Like you're ready to try your best and to just do it without overthinking things. And that's the thing, like the Princess of Wands, she's not an overthinker. That's not to say she doesn't, it's not to say she's not cautious, but she's not an overthinker, and like she will try to do whatever it is that she wants to do, right? Okay, and then in this position we have possible fears or obstacles in your way. And here we have the Seven of Swords. The Seven of Swords. So that's an interesting depiction of the Seven, because it's usually quite the Seven of Swords, the figure is usually depicted in a very insecure kind of way, if that makes sense. But here she looks quite confident in what she's doing, which again I feel like it's very much in line with the overall reading. It seems like you are in a really good place in your life right now, and you know exactly what you want to do. You know exactly what you want to do. However, it is also true that the Seven of Swords can symbolize deceit, you know, like you being deceitful. And in this case, it's either a fear of yours, of like, do you want to be the kind of person who will stop at nothing to achieve their dreams or your goals? Or do you maintain your morals and ethics, right, and your values? And that's something that, like, we all have to face at one point or another, right? Like, it's a moral dilemma that everybody has to go through. But ultimately, when you compare it to the other cards, I think it shows that you know what is right and what is wrong, and you know your own abilities, your own skills, you're sure of yourself. And so those doubts, which again, like, we kind of see the doubts in the King of Coins, but those doubts, that's just your own fear speaking, and it's not necessarily something you have to be super, not that you don't have to be conscious of it, obviously, like, you should keep that in mind. You don't want to be deceitful, right? But you also don't want to get to a mental space where you're being self-destructive and like telling yourself that you can't do something and you're making up excuses, and like any excuse is valid for you to not do what you want to do. Does that make sense? I think sometimes we can be too scared of trying things and like doing what we want to do, and so to kind of prevent ourselves from feeling that disappointment or failure, well, what we perceive as disappointment and failure, we kind of make up, like I said, any kind of excuse for that. So I hope you remain conscious of your self-assuredness, right? Like you know your strengths, you know your weaknesses, trust yourself, right? But let's also look at your feelings, I guess, in general, and for that I'll be using the Reclaim Oracle. Okay, so I just shuffled the cards, and betrayal. Oh my god, this is so in line with what we were just saying about deceitfulness, in the sense that, again, obviously when you're being deceitful, you can end up betraying people, and in fact, deceit itself is a form of betrayal. And let's read what the guidebook has to say about it. But before I even do that, I want to say that, again, like, we are in charge of ourselves and our actions, and as such, it's important to be aware that, like, you're in control of your behaviors, right? Like, you can choose to be deceitful and to betray others, or you can choose to be a better person and, you know, rise above that. And that is up to you. Okay, Betrayal is breaking through the trust that was placed in me by a loving hand. That hand may well have been mine. I betray when I pretend to ignore the value in myself. I betray when I take more than what was given. I am betrayed when my own boundaries are crossed, when my body or mind are taken advantage of. Okay. That's a really powerful message, because it's also true that we can be the ones to be betrayed, right? And sometimes, like I said earlier, you can betray yourself, actually. Sometimes you don't need other people to be your worst enemy. You can be your own worst enemy. And again, I think that's something that, like, you are in charge of, but you just need to remind yourself of that. Sometimes it's easy to put that responsibility on, like, a higher power or other people, right? But we are in charge of ourselves. We are in charge of how we choose to behave and whether or not we respect our own boundaries and morals. So, I think that's, I don't know, this was a very straightforward reading to me. Like, it's very much about being sure in yourself and going for what you want, right? Without stepping over others to achieve your goals. And I think, again, I just want to emphasize that, right? Do not step over others, because when you choose to betray, karma, it works in mysterious ways, but eventually what you give comes back to you, right? So eventually, if you betray someone, you will also be betrayed. But also, would you really want to be the kind of person that behaves in that way? You know what I mean? So, I hope this was good. It's my first reading, so if it wasn't the best, I'm sorry for that. But I hope that you could take something from this. That's it for now. Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night. Hello. Hello, group 2. Welcome to your reading. So you chose the clear quartz and the flower child tarot. And I also have an oracle card here, which is from the Iris Oracle. Okay, so let's start your reading, shall we? So we'll start with the card in the first position, which is your current situation or context in general. And we have the Page of Pentacles. Oh, it's not exactly in the frame. I'm sorry about that. Okay, so we have the Page of Pentacles here, which, look at how beautiful she is. Okay, so the Page of Pentacles kind of, well, pages in general, they are excited about life, they usually represent someone young, but like not necessarily in a literal sense, but I guess I look at it in the sense of like having a childlike mentality, or what I like to say is childlike wonder. And with the pentacles, obviously the pentacles are it's the suit of earth, right? So they're more grounded. The Page of Pentacles typically does, I don't want to say overthink necessarily, but like they're not overthinkers, but they are very careful people in the sense that they think about the possible consequences, right? But at the same time, there is still that like joy of just experiencing the world and just like going for it. Sorry. The Page of Pentacles is usually someone who, is kind of a daydreamer, but also she does act on her dreams. It's not like the Page of Cups. The Page of Cups is definitely more so like a daydreamer, right? But not so much an action taker. But the Page of Pentacles, she is still quite grounded, mentally speaking, right? Like, she is responsible. So in this position, right, of the context and your situation, this kind of tells me that you're in a place where you are being careful, whether it's with your money, in your work, in your love life, in general, right? You're being careful. Maybe you're not really a risk taker, right? So you might have big dreams, and you might work towards them, but like not in a super like serious way, if that makes sense. Not that you're not serious about it, but rather not that you're cynical necessarily, but definitely quite realistic, I would say. So I think right now you're in a point in your life where you're being, yes, a dreamer, but also realistic about it. So you may be wanting to change your situation, and you're maybe thinking about it and starting to act on it, but again, like not necessarily in what's the word I'm looking for? Impulsive kind of way, right? So anyway, let's get more context actually, which is ironic because that's context. But anyway, okay, so the current vibes, the Chariot. Well, this is interesting because in the previous reading for group 1, there was also a major arcana card in this position. So this position symbolizes like the current vibes, right? And I actually said this in the previous reading as well, but vibes are not the same as like feelings or even emotions, to be honest, because they are more long-lasting, and especially in this case with a major arcana, it speaks to a more long-lasting kind of period in your life, if that makes sense. But the Chariot is obviously a card of movement, right? So again, what I was saying here about you possibly wanting to kind of change your current situation, you're starting to take the first steps, but I think you want to really like run for it, if that makes sense. You want to kind of reach the end goal already, but you have to remember to be patient. And I think in general, you are someone that knows that you have to work hard to also achieve your goals, or work smart, I guess I should say, right? Again, you're a very realistic person, I think, at least in terms of the context with the pentacles here. But we all have our limits, so sometimes, like I said, you may daydream about just like getting that end goal, whether it's like if you're graduating from university, and you want to get it over with, or whether it's a promotion, or literally just like any aspect of your life. The pentacles to me, pentacles are about are related to the material world, and I see that as like the physical world, so your physical body as well. So this could also be talking about like your goals in terms of like your physicality, like whether it's working out, wanting to build muscle, wanting to lose weight or gain weight, or whatever it is, your goals, right? Whether you're planning to run in a marathon or something, whether you're interested in a sport and you are working towards, becoming better at it. It could be anything like that related to your body as well. But remember that you can't just run to the finish line. You have to go through all the steps, right, and follow the different steps. The different steps. Okay. So let's also look at your action, and this could be your action, like action that you need to do, or it could be something that like you've already been implementing. And we have the Moon. Ooh, another major arcana card. Okay. So the Moon is interesting in the position of action because the Moon card itself is not necessarily an action-focused card, unlike the Chariot, which, like I said, speaks of movement. The Moon is more about deception in a way. The Moon comes out at night, so there's a lot of shadows, and you know when you're walking at night and you see all the shadows and like your eyes kind of play tricks on you and you kind of see things that aren't there. Not in the sense that you're like seeing things, but you know, the shadows maybe look like the shape of something, right? So that's what the moon card is to me personally. It's like that moment when you're walking at night and you're just kind of like, you're letting your imagination sometimes get the best of you. But you have to remind yourself to be grounded as well. But the moon also speaks to like inner life. I think I'm not alone in loving a good moment of just introspection late at night, you know, maybe before you go to sleep. It's pretty common to just, you know, think about how your day has been or like how you're feeling, checking in with yourself. So sometimes I think people forget to do that, right? Your inner life is just as important as your outer life. It's okay to be social and, you know, spend time with friends, but it's also important to take care of yourself and your mental well-being, but also just checking in as you would with a friend, right? Like just asking yourself, how am I doing? Is there something in my life that I want to work on, that I want to grow from, you know, things like that. So to me, that's kind of what I'm sensing as like, or what I interpreted as the action to take, rather, I should say. So maybe think more rather than like actually take action, which sounds counterintuitive, but it's got its own logic to it. Okay, so then we can look at the fears and obstacles, or like possible obstacles. The star, oh my god. 3 major arcana cards, that's crazy. Okay. So clearly this is something that has been going on for a while for you. Because you have 3 major arcana cards, which again, like, they are more long lasting, right? The minor arcana is more about like, you know, day to day, but this is definitely more so like related to like a bigger aspect of your life, let's say. So, again, fears or obstacles. The star is a very positive card, usually, right? It's interpreted in a very positive way. However, and I can relate to this, sometimes we are scared of being happy. Sometimes we are scared of letting ourselves be content and peaceful, if that makes sense. And I think especially in this context of like daydreaming and, you know, wanting to rush to the finish line, I think our fears, it's like, in a way, yes, you can't wait to get to that goal, but at the same time, sometimes it's scary to think like, what am I gonna do after I'm done with that goal? You know, like I kind of felt this way, I'm just gonna give you an example, but I kind of felt this way when I graduated from university, and I was like, well, now what? You know, because then you have another set of problems opening up. So sometimes we want to get things done, we want to accomplish our goals, but at the same time we're scared of getting to that point, because then we might feel like we have to find another goal and we have to fight another set of problems, you know. But I think, again, like when you look at the action needed to take here, I think it also, once again, talks about you don't need to worry so much, and like it's okay to take time for yourself, to reflect, and to let yourself also live in the moment, enjoy the moment. Don't fret too much and don't worry too much about the future, because the future will come no matter what, right? But you have to live in the present. Otherwise, you're always going to be feeling like you have to, in a way, be anxious about what's coming next, right? You can't always be holding out for the future. Sometimes you have to just be in the moment, have your little moments, I love taking walks at night with my dog. And I find that really peaceful, and you're just like there with your surroundings, and you take nature in if you have access to nature, that is, if you're near nature. But it's a very peaceful moment, and it's a very grounding moment, at least for me, I would say. And I think that can really help with the overthinking, and that includes the fears of like, will I ever be happy? Will I let myself feel that happiness, right? So let's look at the feelings, and this is the oracle card. Fear that the light will bring judgment. Wow, that literally kind of matches with the star, right? Because sometimes, again, like if you look at the light as like a metaphor for your end goal, your finish line, like that can be so scary, you know. Like for example, if you're waiting for a promotion, or you're applying to different jobs and like waiting for that acceptance, I was gonna say like an acceptance letter, or like waiting for the call back to say yes, you got the job, like that in itself is a very scary and like anxiety provoking moment. But let's look at what the guidebook says. So here's the guidebook. Number 5. Fear that the light will bring judgment. The lantern brings The lantern brings its fiery gaze upon you. It is your time to be bathed in warm light. You have so many talents and wonderful qualities. Now is the time for them to be shown. There can be a fear that when the light shines on you to illuminate your positive qualities, that you will be vulnerable to others, seeing your deepest secret places. Know that you only have to show or give that which feels comfortable to you. Let the light warm you, not burn you. It's interesting that he talks about also like being scared of being in the light, because the Page of Pentacles is also someone who's quite shy and like someone who doesn't really like to be center stage. So that's interesting in that sense as well, because again, it goes to show sometimes you may even be scared of certain accomplishments because of the social aspect to them. Like again, just to give you an example, I remember when I had to defend my thesis, like I was so happy to get it over with, but also like that moment of like knowing, oh, I'm gonna have to talk in front of a lot of people. Like that's so scary, right? That can be really scary. Even if I knew that what I was saying was, not to brag, but like I thought it was interesting, right? Like I liked my thesis. I thought it was an interesting topic, and anytime I discussed it with other people, they also thought it was interesting. But still, it's scary, and being there in front of everyone and like waiting for that judgment, like, you know, it says here, it can be very anxiety inducing. But again, like, you are stronger than you think, you're more capable than you think, and or maybe you know exactly how capable you are, but you're just scared of like others' judgment. But you can't live your life based on what other people say about you, right? And you also can't rush through life, you know. Whatever is coming in the sense of, okay, how do I say this? Because I don't believe that everything is already written out, right? Like, we don't know what the future will bring. But when I say what is coming, I just mean the future will come no matter what, you know. Tomorrow will come for you either way, so you might as well enjoy the moment, be present, like I said, and enjoy those moments of accomplishments, right? Like, enjoy your accomplishments, enjoy your moments in the spotlight, and don't let your fears overwhelm you. Basically, that's what I'm getting from here, from this reading. So I hope this was, I was gonna say helpful, I don't know, but I hope this resonated with you, and I hope you found it interesting. Let me know in the comments if you liked the message. this was my first time doing like a reading like this, so if you have any feedback, you know, I'm open to constructive criticism. But thank you, and good night, good night, good night, good night. Hello, group 3, hello. Welcome to your reading, and you chose this beautiful black crystal, which again, I don't know the name of, I'm sorry, and Zeke's Arcana Tarot. And I'll also be using a card from the Iris Oracle. Okay, so let's start. The card in the first position, which is the context or situation. Okay, the King of Wands is a very good leader, but they are very bold, and sometimes they can be a bit in your face, which is okay, right? But depending on your personality, that may not be the best. But this could either be you, or it could symbolize someone in your life, or again, it could just be like your general situation and context. But yeah, so the King of Wands is a great leader, but they are the kind of person that they know exactly what they want. Like, they have their vision and they like to stick with that, and like, not that they're not open to other people's opinions, but they have that vision and they wanna achieve that vision, right? Like, the Wands are you know, related to fire in terms of the element fire, and also in general the Wand suit is about, or is related to, our passions, whether it's like our hobbies or just in general like our spirituality, who we are as people deep within, if that makes sense. So let's look at some more cards. So the current vibes are represented by the Knight of Swords. The Knight of Swords. So again, very strong personalities here. You know, I think both the King of Wands and the Knight of Swords are very, very, like, in your face. I mean, the Knight of Swords is, I would say, more on the reserved side. But they are also the kind of person that, like, once they know what they want, they will go get it, and they don't really care about the consequences all that much. I mean, they are strategists, I would say. Like, they do strategize, they're not necessarily super impulsive, but they're also not scared of, like, just, you know, doing what is needed, even if it may be morally ambiguous. And it's interesting to see these two together, because the King of Wands, I think, would love, like, a follower like the Knight of Swords, you know, because this is the brain of the operation. You know, this is the person that, like, has that vision, like I said, and this is the person that, like, goes and does it and, like, makes it come true. Not that the King doesn't, because of course the King position itself, like, that's a leader, right? So, like, you have to get things done to get to that point. But it is interesting to have these two together, because again, you're very much, it seems like, in the mindset of I know what I want, I need to go get it. I know what I want, I need to go get it. It doesn't matter who gets in the way, it doesn't matter what I have to cut down. I just want to achieve my goal, and that's that, you know. And you may not be that open to hearing other people's constructive criticism. At least that's kind of what I'm getting. And that may be for good reason, right? Because again, the Knight of Swords is a strategist, in my opinion. Like, I think they are a thinker, right? Like, the swords are it's the suit of air and the mind. So they are thinkers. They're not necessarily super impulsive. that doesn't mean that they're omnipotent, right? Like, it doesn't mean you have all the answers. Anyway, let's also look at the action that's needed to take. And here we have the Empress. You have so many bold personalities. I mean, the Empress, I think, in general, is seen as more passive and not in a bad way. But in this case, I feel like we're seeing a depiction of the Empress that's a lot more. It's speaking to her cunning side in a way. Because obviously to become Empress, you have to have your own strategies as well. You have to be able to get things done in your own way, right? Whatever that way is. But I do think the Empress, like, she is very confident in herself and she knows her strengths and weaknesses and she uses them to her advantage, right? So, again, this is very much like a reading about like taking action, you know? Like the previous reading for group number 2, it was more about taking time to reflect. But this is definitely very much like it's time to act. You know, you know what you want and you can go get it. And again, maybe this is less, I don't want to say like moral, because you know, knowing what you want and being open to doing whatever it takes, it's not necessarily a bad thing. But obviously, you also have to know your limits and you know, respect your boundaries as well as other people's boundaries. But then, as for fears and obstacles, we have the Three of Wands. The Three of Wands. This is beautiful. Oh, sorry, the Four of Wands. I can't. I didn't see this one. The Four of Wands, again, speaks of, like, a moment of happiness and accomplishment. So, once again, this reading is very straightforward. I felt the same way with the first reading, where it just felt like kind of similar to now, where it's like, take your action. But in that case, it was more also about thinking things through. But in this case, it feels very much like you have already everything kind of figured out, right? Like, you've went through the phases of the 2 and 3 of Wands. You've planned out what you need to do. You have taken your initial action. And now you're like, you've accomplished it, right? Like, you're ready for that. So either you've already accomplished what you wanted to accomplish, or you're on your way to that. You're getting there. And this could be related. It's interesting because, okay, you have 2 wands here. So the wands are related to your passions, whether it's like your own spiritual self or your hobbies. And it could also be like if your work involves creativity, it could also be related to that, of course. But I prefer to focus on like what you can do for yourself, you know, not focus on like the outside world so much, I guess. And I think this very much speaks to you having a very like fiery personality, and like you obviously know what you want, but at the same time sometimes it can be a bit too much, in the sense that you have your vision and it's bold and it's your own, but other people may not be so keen to it. And so I feel like we're seeing a kind of personality emerging that could easily end up kind of fighting with others. I don't know. Like, obviously these are all like great cards, right? And this is a great sign, if you believe in signs, that what you want to achieve, it will be achieved. But at the same time, again, you have to ask yourself, like, who are you willing to be to get what you want, you know? And we had this kind of question in the first reading as well. But I think here it's very much about, like, I get a lot of, like, cunning vibes here. I don't know if maybe it's that Empress, like, her look, but yeah, the King of Wands can also be a bit too ambitious sometimes, and too stuck in their ways, in a way. But let's also look at the feelings card, and just like a clarifier in a way. Noble. Okay, so you probably know what that means. So yeah, I feel like that's very much in line. It's a lot of someone who's very, like, straightforward. No BS, no filters sometimes. And although I think many of us can appreciate someone who's got no filters and who says it like they think it, and who doesn't really sugarcoat things, but sometimes that can also be very, no offense, but, like, annoying. And I myself, I'm like that sometimes, so I get it, right? But not everybody is ready to hear someone be brutally honest with them, right? And sometimes we do need to sugarcoat things. But let's also read what the Oracle has to say. So, okay. Noble. This card wants to confront you with those little white lies you might feed yourself and accept from other people. It's time to get rid of all that bull. This card is as stubborn as it gets, and if you don't look at these little falsehoods right now and try to move around this card, it's not moving. So, again, like the little white lies, that really reminds me of this card, actually. I feel like the Empress, in her cunning side, I feel like she wouldn't really have a problem to, lying a little bit to get her way. And honestly, I can respect that. But at the same time, that's not always the best thing, right? And you do have to question whether, one, that's the kind of person you want to be, but also, is that the kinds of people you want to surround yourself with as well, right? Because what we give, we also get. And I don't know, would you be as willing to be around someone who maybe shares the same traits as you, right? And again, this could be about you. Maybe this is more about, like, the situation you're finding yourself in, where someone else is actually like that, whether it's your boss or a family member or your partner or, like, your friends, maybe you're finding yourself in a situation where you feel almost like you're drowning in this person's personality or, like, in their ambition, and you feel kind of either swept to the side or, like, in a way they're using you to get what they want, right? And obviously no one likes to feel used, but if you are in that situation, then I also think this is a good reminder that it tells you that, like, you are capable of making your own decisions, and you are capable of setting your boundaries. So sometimes that's exactly what you need to do, right? And even if it hurts or it might make you uncomfortable, we need to have our boundaries respected. And I think if you feel like you're being kind of, like, moved along with the flow as a result of someone else, and you're not necessarily happy about it, then you have to stand up for yourself, and you have to get up and out of that river. I don't know. I was trying to stick with the river metaphor, the water metaphor, but you know what I mean? Like, you have to stand up for yourself because no one else will. Or maybe they will, but, like, you can't depend on others, right? And you've got that inner strength for sure. Look at the Empress here. Like, the Empress, she is not just someone, like I said, she was passive before. I kind of said, like, her usual depiction, and I stand by that. But again, passive doesn't mean that you don't have a personality, and it doesn't mean that you can just be used, And the Empress, she knows how to get shit done, you know. And sometimes you have to do what you have to do to also get out of a situation you're not happy in, you know. So, and on the other hand, though, if you are the person in the situation who's like, you know, you've got your vision, you want to achieve it no matter what, again, maybe take a step back, breathe, and just kind of check in with the people around you as well, you know. But at the same time, I also want to say there is nothing wrong with being ambitious, you know, and I think especially if you're a woman, oftentimes I feel like women are punished for being ambitious and for doing whatever it takes to get where they want to get. But I don't agree with that. I don't think that's necessarily something to look down on. But at the same time, it is important to remember that how you treat others says a lot about you